Hello, hello. Good afternoon. We're here with Dr. Brittany Fisher. Hello there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I'm calling it the peer-to-peer sessions. And really, it's an idea that I had a couple weeks ago. We were chatting about this offline, about what dentists might like to hear about on a podcast. And thank you for being our first guest.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. To get started, just please share who you are and uh, your background a bit, and then we'll get into your startup process.
Okay, sounds good. I'm Brittany Fisher, like Greg said. I'm an orthodontist here in Encinitas, California. We just opened our doors mid-December, so we're just finishing our second month in practice. I went to school at Michigan and then UCLA and then Michigan again. So kind of finally put down roots here in Southern California. Yeah,
How's your first 2 months been?
it's good. I mean, it's kind of terrifying, right? You're so used to seeing like 50 patients a day, and the next thing you know, you're seeing one patient a week and two patients a week and then three. Um, so yeah, it's scary, but it's really exciting. So
Cool. Cool. Well, it's certainly a journey, and I'm blessed to really, I mean, we met how many months ago? I mean, well over a year ago now, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
About a little over a year ago.
So I would love for you to share who you worked with on your startup journey, but before we get into that, how long ago did you know you wanted to be a dentist? For some people, it's like a
So
childhood
yeah,
dream or in college. Tell us some more
yeah,
about that.
yeah. So when I had braces, my dentist did my braces, and I just micromanaged it. I was cutting things off and religating things, and he was like, Britt, you should probably go into dentistry. And then, it kind of fell off my radar, to be honest. And then when I was at the university, I was doing different research labs, and somehow I ended up in a lab with an orthodontic resident. And that's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And then I realized you had to go to dental school first and prep crowns and clean teeth and do all that. So I made it through that. And then, yeah, here we are.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What was your favorite part of school, and what was like something that you are so happy after graduation you'll never have to do again?
Never have to do again. And no, if I never have to see the inside of a tooth again, I mean, the mouth itself is small enough. It's a small enough space to work in, but working inside of a tooth is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Um, my favorite part, honestly, I really liked a lot of the lab work, which is funny because I outsource all of that now. I make retainers, but that's about it. But it's fun because you're working with your hands. It's creative. But treating patients orthodontically is similar, just on a different scale.
Cool. So you were working as an associate then. For how
Yeah,
long?
yeah. I was working as an associate. So I graduated from dental school in 2013 and then from residency in 2016. So gosh, I've been out now for about 9 years. And I've been working as an associate that entire time, always in private practice, always in pedo ortho. I actually helped a pediatric dentist open the ortho side of her practice. So I always called it kind of my startup on training wheels.
Yeah.
And then I've had a great mentor in a pedo ortho practice for the last nearly 8 years. And I'm still there. I'm still with them 2 to 3 days a week. And they've been really supportive, which has been a huge blessing in this
That
process of
is
this
huge.
experience.
Yes, yes. Well, then, at what point did you decide that you wanted to go out on your own and open your own practice?
I don't even know that I consciously decided it at any time, and like all of a sudden we're here.
Yeah.
Um, the first thing I did was I was at an AAO and I got really kind of excited about the possibility. Um, and so I met with Ali from Bank of America, and I had met with him a year out of school. Like 1 year out of school, I started toying with this idea. And then I was like, there's no way I'm not ready for this. And so I kind of just didn't think about it again. And then about, gosh, a year and a half to 2 years ago, I called him up and I was like, I don't know if this is crazy, but I want to see if I can get approved for a loan. Like,
Mm.
where does this go? Um, And he actually said to me, he's like, oh, it's the 7-year itch. If you would have waited another year and called me, I would have said, what took you so long? But this is, here we are. And so, anyway, he kind of just walked me through the application process and kind of almost did it for me, made it really easy. And the next thing he called me and told me I got approved. I'll never forget when I took the call. I was still driving my 2008 Accord, and I had my baby with me, and I was changing her diaper in the trunk when he called me. I had him on speakerphone. I was like, I'm really sorry. I have a baby with me. Um, and I'm changing her diaper. And he's like, hey, Britt, you got approved. You got approved for your loan. And I'm looking at what I'm doing in this like gravel parking lot, changing her diaper in the trunk. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this.
That's
Yeah, so
awesome.
that's how it started.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Ali is a good friend and the best in the business.
Yeah.
And to get that phone call, now that's a story. We were talking earlier about life stories, and that's memorable.
Yeah.
So from there, then, we talk a lot about building the team that is
Mhm.
going to surround you in this startup journey, because truly I believe that you should be in the center of this circle of trust and have this team around you that are experts in their field.
Yeah.
So after being approved, then, who was your next call?
So actually, when I took that call, it was when I was wrapping a meeting with Mark Miner. Had
Okay.
just finished up meeting with him. So I met, again, a year out of school when I first met Ali. I also met Brian from Rome. And so I reached out to him when I started toying with this idea, and he connected me with Mark, who was the San Diego contingent at the time. And the other person I reached out to kind of all in that same month was Jill Allen, who's a orthodontic startup consultant. She's kind of known for that.
Yeah.
And I had a few friends use her and love her. And so I called her. She felt like a therapist immediately at the time, which is kind of what you need when you're going through this process. And so yeah, I'd say Ali and Mark from Rome, and then Jill Allen with JAA Consulting were my three first contacts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I believe we may have fallen
Yeah.
somewhere right after that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once you
So
find your space, then we started doing test fits,
yes.
right?
Yep. So I actually, before I even met you, Mark and I looked at another space, and I started trying to design it with an equipment specialist. The space fell through. Then found the space that I'm in now, and that's when I was like, okay, I actually like need somebody who knows what they're doing here and who is gonna elevate this more than just a client. So he introduced me to you, and yeah, and then it took me from there.
One of the first things I remember is that you had a clear vision. And when we started doing, arranging the space, I call it, putting the puzzle
Yeah.
together of everything that needs to fit within the
Oh,
walls. And loved your feedback, because so often than not, we work with dentists who may have never have seen a floor plan before. But I feel
yeah.
like you had a really good basis. So perhaps it was that previous
Yeah.
space that warmed you up a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it was
And
that. Yeah, that previous space. And having done it maybe 5 years ago and helping this pediatric dentist, like kind of gave me an idea of what I liked and what I didn't like and how the flow goes. And so that I think that helped a lot. But I mean, I didn't have to change a lot.
yeah, indeed. Well, then once we had the space plan done and you said, yes, this is it, let's move forward, then we hopped right into design.
Yep.
But before we did that, before we go into more of the design aspect of this conversation, tell me a little bit more about who else was on your team.
So I met with Stephanie from Utgard, who's incredible.
Isn't she great?
They She's so great, and her husband Bill's great. They're great. Family business. They've been in dentistry forever. That was probably the wisest decision I made in this process in terms of just not having to take on like the stress or mental load of managing the whole project because you know what they're doing. I mean, I just would show up. So that was really helpful, and she helped me kind of the other people to be on the team. She was kind of like in my corner the whole time, even though I hadn't signed up to work with her or anything. She was just always a resource and was available. kind of like orthodontics. We do these complimentary consults and we
Yeah.
monitor patients for years. Steph was the same. So she spoke my language and she connected me with an IT person kind of at the last minute. I worked with McKay Turnbull. He was great. ADG Design was his company. I spoke to him the night before I needed someone, and he was here the next day. And he's really come through. Um, Jessica Jones, who is kind of the bridge between your work and Stephanie's work with UtGuard. So she did, the layout, the permitting, drawings, all of the stuff.
Yeah.
And she was wonderful. And she has some design experience as well. So it was really, really easy for her to kind of like take your work and plug it in and take it to the next step. So
Yeah, she's great as well. And that's the overall arching theme here. You had such amazing people surrounding you.
I had such a good team. I feel like I just got so lucky, but I think it all stemmed from the fact that I met Mark and I met Stephanie, and between the two of them, they both knew where to point me and who to piece together, and I'm so grateful. Having a good team, I hear so many stories from people who've been through this experience and have had hard times. And I had some hard stuff with equipment. There was a hurricane in Florida, and my equipment was being
Yes.
manufactured there. So there were some hiccups like that were out of our control, but I mean, the project finished ahead of schedule. I haven't heard of that happening
It
for other
never happens.
never happened.
You deserve a trophy for that.
I'm not meant to be
Stephanie
ready
didn't
to
build it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, when we first got started and we talk a lot about inspiration for design, there inspiration for a dental office can come from so many different areas. And I often say, please make the inspiration come from a non-dental environment.
Yeah.
And you did a really great job at that. What
Well,
inspired you most about the aesthetic or the experience for your patients in your new space?
so I guess let's bring it back to the name. So
Yeah.
Haven is the name of the practice. I grew up in Michigan in a small town called Green Haven. My husband and I grew up there together. When I was speaking to friends as I was going through this process and trying to figure out a name for the practice, one of the things I said was I really want it to be a space you feel comfortable in, a space kind of like when you go to a spa and you treat yourself. I want this to be a treatment you're providing for yourself, not like a clinic you have to go visit. And then during one of those conversations, I said, I want it to be a little haven, a little oasis. And once I said that, I was like, that's it, that's the name. And from there, kind of everything came from there. And so a lot of the stuff I was putting on a Pinterest board when we were meeting for our initial design consultations was kind of like upscale, elegant bathrooms, but with a kind of calm coastal feel to it. And I'm like, why do I keep pinning bathrooms? But then I'm like, oh, well, because I have this like kind of spa vision to the aesthetic. And so, yeah.
And you have a really cool bathroom too now.
And I have a really cool bathroom now too. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. In the construction process, and like you mentioned earlier, there's so many stories, nightmare stories of people who didn't do their research, didn't take enough time to build the team around them. And overall, I think you had an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Was there anything that came up though that you were like, whoop, I did not see that coming?
I think I just didn't fully understand the timelines of when things had to happen. So, one thing I wish I would have known is figure out and select your equipment well in advance, especially your x-ray machine. So many things hinge around that in the permitting process that I just didn't know. I thought, oh, whatever, you just have a room for it and move forward and you can pick one out later. And it's just not that simple. And also in terms of like physically laying out your equipment, like your chairs and your side units. I bought my chairs direct from the company to save money, but then as a result, that wasn't part of my equipment install, which I should have known. I just didn't. It was the first time I went through this. And so all of a sudden, it was like, we're going to be there tomorrow and we got to lay out where the chairs go and where the plumbing and uh, duh, plumbing goes underneath all these units. But I don't know. I didn't think about that because I hadn't been through this before. So I felt like there were a couple of moments where I thought I was so prepared, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. And there was a lot of FaceTime and a lot of people involved trying to get the equipment, like manufacturer on the phone, and then hiring an install team, which was separate from my equipment team. And so I feel like I overcomplicated it a little bit by doing things that way. I saved some money. I definitely did. And I met a great independent equipment team, so that was a great learning experience. But it made for some stressful moments, and it we had to manage and coordinate the shipping. I was out of town at a conference for it. I mean, this team came through, Quality Dental Co., Omar's team. They were amazing, um, but it definitely made it harder than it needed to be. That was probably my biggest hurdle in the process.
Good to know. Something often we get asked about is much like in the design and construction, you have to plan way ahead in advance and you have
Yeah,
to know decisions sometimes 6 and 8 months in advance. For instance,
yeah,
for the chairs, you need to know exactly where the electric, the plumbing, the air, water vac, all that's going to come right out of the floor, down to the inch. Also, though, as a dentist, you're going through all of these different experiences working with a realtor, a designer, a marketing and branding, IT. It's like you have this family around you. And at the same time, you're learning about how to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. And it's like, well, how do I even get patients to come through the front door?
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Right?
that's
Tell me
still
about that.
that's still still a question I'm trying to figure out the answer to, because every time I think that something is working, I'm like, oh, our meta ads are working or Google is working because someone schedules online. Then they fill out their history and they come in, and I realize it was a referral from someone. So that's great. It's good to know that. I'm trying to track that really closely. Um, we took the approach that my husband decided he was going to be my Google Meta marketing person. So he is training with a past marketing person from his field. And so he's not in dentistry at all, but he's like, you know what? I have this friend who worked for our company as marketing. I'm going to do that. I'm still not sure if that was the right decision, but at the time, this is the place that we chose to save money, and he wanted to
Yeah,
learn that skill.
yeah.
What I'm doing is just a lot of boots on the ground. I mean, I'm trying to find any networking event that I can. I'm very chatty in a lot of the mom Facebook groups, just trying to
Well,
be a
that's great.
resource. I joined a mom entrepreneurial group of just North County moms. And that's been great. From there, I've met people, which is just kind of spider webbed out. And people are calling, other providers are calling me like, hey, I got your name from so and so. I want to meet so that we can refer patients to each other. And that's been really helpful. I mean, I haven't seen a ton of patients. I've been open 2 months, but all but two have been direct referrals, some from dentists and different providers in the space that I've worked with in the past, and then a handful from new providers that I've just been dropping off marketing baskets at and chatting at their front desk and trying to get to know them. One of them, Greg, is thanks to you. Dr. Ali over here at All Smiles. He was your client and Utgard's client, so I popped in to say hi, and we've gotten to know each other now, and we have some mutual patients, so that's been cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
You know,
I
working
learned
with Dr. Ali, working
yeah.
with him, it was the first time I also worked with Stephanie and Bill.
Oh
And
yeah.
we were going through the construction process, and I'm like, hey guys, do you have any questions? I'm like, I haven't heard from you in a while. And I showed up and it was like almost done and it was gorgeous. And it was so shocking because a lot of times contractors have a gazillion questions.
Yeah.
And then like when it came down to your office, I'm like, okay, I know what to expect working with them. And the same thing, walked into your space for the first time and I was like, the precision, the detail, it's just gorgeous. It's a
Yeah,
gorgeous office.
there was like no hand holding, and they just do it. I mean, they finished construction at the beginning of November, and I was planning for the beginning of January. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. All right. For those who are listening, this might be a little let's just say weird for you right now, but I'm going to do a screen share. And for those of you who are watching, let's just take like 2 minutes and look at your office. Would that be cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. You can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
The coolest thing about your space is the renderings and the reality. But first, here's an example of the floor plan. We'll just spend 10 seconds here. You walk in through the front door, concierge desk, reception area. We go through into the X-ray, business, consult, four-chair bay, private office, lab, lounge, and then circle right around to that restroom, and then right out the door. This plan, I said it before and I'll say it again. Like, what I enjoyed the collaboration with you on this because it just turned out beautifully. Like the functionality on paper looks great. How does it work in real life?
Oh yeah, it flows. It flows so great. I didn't outfit the very first chair, and I put kind of like a little kids nook. I'm sitting right here. I can see it,
Yeah.
which is so fun because you walk in the door, and that's kind of one of the spaces you see. So until I'm busy enough to justify it, that's kind of where the siblings are hanging out, and so it helped me kind of like make it a little bit kid friendly here too. So,
Picture of that will show that. And here's what's called the reflected ceiling plan. So this
oh
shows
yeah.
ceiling types, lighting placement. We'll breeze through that. And here's the first rendering. And look at that Haven Orthodontics right behind you. Gorgeous. Now watch this. This next slide is reality.
Wow.
Incredible. I just have to go back. Like this rendering is exact. I think this was part of the process that really helps the contractors to make it come alive, how we designed it.
Yeah.
How do you like the concierge setup with the business kind of being around the corner?
Yeah, I really like that. So when I was trying to outfit the space, I really wanted to have two consult rooms in case I had two patients that needed, to come in around similar times and I couldn't fit it. And so I decided to put that there. And it's actually already been so nice just to have a space for little meetings. Like my son sometimes will come in and do a speech therapy here, and I work with his therapist. I can work with her for other patients as well. And so it's cool to have a space that facilitates things outside of just what I had envisioned. It's already kind of being
It's a
useful.
second home. It's for your
Yeah,
family as well, right? Here's that bathroom. How fun is that?
love it.
It is. Britt, I think this is one of my favorite ortho open bays that we've ever done. I mean,
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's so soft, so welcoming.
Yeah, when I first looked at this space when it was just a shell, it felt so dark. And it's wild how much light we were able to like with the floor plan, the light really comes in from both sides of the space. It's great.
Indeed, indeed. And you can see there, as you were just talking about, where the chair number one goes, having the little family area. How is that working out for you?
Great, great. It's so fun. I mean, I have to get rid of the crayons. The first time we had some kiddos in here, we had some red crayon on the wall. So I thought, oh, it'll be so fun for them to color. I learned my lesson, but it's awesome. I love having it. I love seeing the parents just kind of like immediately drawn to that space and post up with their
Right.
siblings.
Here's your sterilization. Just slip through these real quick. Your consultation room, and a close up of that reception area.
Yeah.
All right.
That's so fun.
Britt, overall, I'm just so excited that you are chatting one on one. And truly, to go back to our goal here is sharing with others who might be having thoughts of opening their own practice. Is there anything that you just think is like so important to share that would really help anyone on their journey?
Oh gosh. Honestly, like figuring out your support system, whatever that means to you, whether that's your therapist or for me, my consultant, who's kind of a therapist to me. My family's been really supportive. My husband's like taken on more role at home and also taken on some of the role for the office. We have a lot of family support with in terms of childcare. So I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I'm crazy, starting this process. My daughter was just turned 1 when we started this. So that's a lot, it's a lot to juggle. And you have to realize, even though you're an orthodontist or a dentist and you're probably like type A and driven, there's just only so much of you to go around. There's a Facebook group I'm a part of that's all startup. So I have kind of a group chat with some friends who are in similar stages, and we're all there for each other, pinging questions off each other, whether it's business or software or, managing your team member, whatever it is. There's so much you're not going to know. And so having people around you to kind of like help support you in this process is so, so important. And my associateship is the same way. So having that has been tremendous because they're really understanding and a cheerleader for me in this.
Dude, how many team members do you have?
I have one. I went a little different route than I think a lot of other people do. So as an orthodontist, we don't do a ton of the clinical work typically. A lot of it's delegated. We do the treatment planning. And as a startup, you either hire someone who is clinical, and so you'll stay in that role, and you'll do a lot of the computer and software and insurance stuff, or you hire a non-clinical team member, and they do a lot of the computer stuff, and you're seeing the patients by yourself. So that's the way I went. I hired someone who had no dental experience. She just seemed motivated, a self-starter, had worked with kids a lot in the past, had some management experience, and she just dives in. So that has been awesome for me. At the end of the day, I'm trained in teeth. I don't know all the other parts of this stuff. I'm learning as we go. And so she's learning with me. And I think that's been really helpful. I trust her a lot, and I feel so, so lucky to have her on my team.
That's awesome. May I ask how you were introduced to each other?
So I posted an ad on Indeed, and a lot of people applied who had some dental front desk experience, et cetera. And for some reason, I was just really drawn to her application. She had worked with foster youth, and had management experience in that. And so when we went through the interview process, my consulting team actually kind of did like a screening interview round, and it was all green lights for her. And I was like, how long do I wait before I interview her in person? And my consultant was like, don't wait, the good ones get snatched up. And so, so I met with her. She interviewed on a Wednesday. I emailed her on a Thursday, said, can you interview tomorrow, Friday? We met in person on Friday. I offered her the job on Saturday. So she was the only person I actually interviewed in person because my consultant had been screening the applications with me. And so anyway, she was really transparent that at some point she's going back to school and getting her master's degree in therapy. So I knew she was sharp. I knew she wouldn't be with me forever. But she's a wonderful employee for now. And so I appreciated her transparency and the amount of time she wanted to give to her job that she was leaving. So I really respected how she went about it, and I was like sold. So
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, Britt, thank you so much for this conversation. I truly hope everything that you shared helps someone else along their journey. In closing up, what is one thing on top of mind right now that you would, how do I say, wish that your future self could have told your past self?
I wish I would have told myself to get organized sooner. I feel like I was backpedaling and figuring out how I wanted to organize stuff because before I knew it, my inbox was just flooded. And so I ended up really utilizing Google Docs, whatever you use. Some people use Google Docs. There's plenty of kind of online things to use, but Google Docs. And I created a bunch of different emails for different reasons. And that has helped me so much, but I did it late in the process. I also, which I highly recommend other people doing, I did a cost segregation study. So a lot of startups don't do this, but it's essentially a team you pay them. It's, I don't know, between $5,000 and $10,000. And they reallocate how your construction is going to be used in your taxes. So instead of a 39-year depreciation, they change that to 5-year and 15-year, and they break it up to have more. It basically front loads some of the tax savings for you. That was stressful to me because I wasn't organized. So I had to go back through and comb through everything to gather my receipts and make my spreadsheets for that. process. And had I just been organized on the front end of this, where I thought I was organized, it just wasn't, it would have just made things a lot smoother all the way through.
Well, life in entrepreneurship is a learning every single day. If we can just understand that, maybe it'll just make us smile a little bit more because it's truly a blessing to be in charge of your life. And Britt, I wish you all the best. I mean, thank you so
Thank
much for sharing your
you. Oh,
story.
of course.
Your brand is amazing, you're amazing, your office is amazing, and I know that your future of your practice is just going to be kiddos and teenagers and adults in and out of there. You're going to be so successful.
Thank you. Well,
I can feel it.
thanks for bringing it to life. You
You're
infused
welcome.
life into it. So
That's right. Cool. Well, you're going to have an open house soon, right?
I think I'll probably do it at like the 6 month mark. I was
Yeah.
kind of waiting until I had a little bit, like if I do it right now, I feel like it's all my family and friends. So once I have more patients in treatment, getting patients in treatment for me, I'm doing everything digital.
Yeah.
So it's like a 3 to 4 week timeline turnaround, like
Yeah.
delay. So I do the consult and then they actually don't get anything put in their mouth for a month or so. And so it kind of pushes that out. So I'm hoping to push out my party a little bit so that there's
Cool.
more attendees.
Well, there's a lot to celebrate, and I'll be waiting for that invite via
Yeah,
email.
don't worry. I haven't missed it. It just hasn't been sent out yet.
Okay. All right, Britt, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.